This week on Talk Shop, we're going to be looking at tire pressure monitor systems, or TPMS. Tire pressure monitor systems have been used since 2004. They're even older than that. Every vehicle that's pretty well now built has a tire pressure monitor system in it. So, on this vehicle here, the tire pressure sensor is in the valve itself. Now, we have a special tool that we can use to actually check and see if that sensor is working. Basically, I walk up to the wheel, I hit a scan, and it tells me, yes, this thing is working. It's got 35 pounds in it, and it's at 315 megahertz. That's the signal coming out of it for the computer to read. I can check all four wheels if I want, and I will eventually, but with a tool like this, we can actually reprogram the car to pick up new sensors, because what's going to happen with this vehicle, we're going to be installing its winter tires, and we're going to be installing 4 new sensors in it. We're actually going to duplicate the signals off the original sensors and install them in the new sensors that are aftermarket, so you don't have to go out and spend a fortune buying sensors. To me, this is probably one of the best investments that they ever come up with, this tire pressure monitor, because before you even go out, if your light's on the dash or flashing, you know you got a tire that's low, or you might have an electrical problem in the circuit. So let's head over to the right rear, and we're going to duplicate that signal. So the people at Würth have come up with a whole new setup here. They've got brand new sensors that look identical to the factory ones. They come apart. They have the proper core, the proper valve, the proper cap. Very important that you reuse the cap that comes with it, because there's a special seal in there to prevent this thing from oxidizing, because it is made out of aluminum. So now I want to duplicate this sensor. All I have to do is stick it in the machine here, lock it in, and just hit enter. It's going to erase the flash and then reprogram it. There it is, verifying, and now it's done, successful. So what I've done is I've duplicated that sensor. I'll do the rest later, and then we can mount them on the car, and this tire pressure light will stay off unless there's a problem with one of the tires. Okay, so we're here at the tire machine, and Paul's going to install this sensor into the rim, and he's going to mount the tire. And there is a certain procedure on how to do this so you do not damage the sensor. So there is a proper seal on that sensor. Now that rubber seal on this sensor is identical to what's on a regular tire valve. That seal needs to be replaced every few years. So just remember that every so many years you have to service these, just like you would a tire valve. The rubber gets hard and old and it just starts to leak. Now when you watch Paul mount this tire, he's going to put the valve in a certain position so that it can't get damaged. The reason for this lube here is to help ease the rim and tire together for inflation and for easy access to get it on. And if you notice, he has the valve facing away from the head there, so when he puts the tire on, it's not going to grab the valve and break it. That happens a lot, and it's a very, very common thing that happens. What he'll do here, he's going to overinflate the tire, then he's going to release the pressure so the tire seats in properly, and then he's going to inflate it again. The valve core tool that he is using is made specifically for tire pressure monitor valves. There's actually a torque specification on that tool, and you'll see that when he puts it back in, after he inflates the tire again, you'll actually hear it ratchet when it's tight. Again, the reason why you do this is because you want the tire to sit on the rim nice and square, believe it or not, and that way you know it's going to be nice and true when it's spinning. You're going to hear this wrench ratchet. So This way he cannot over tighten that valve. That valve is now fixed in its proper torque specification. We don't have to worry about it. Now he's taking it off the machine and he's going to balance it. This is just a regular procedure that you do every day anyways. Whenever you mount a tire, you want to balance it. We're more concerned about the tire pressure monitor on this thing, but we are going to have to balance it, seeing that we just mounted a tire. Balancing doesn't take much, but you have to be good with it. Perfect. Everything's great. So we're going to take this thing, we're going to put it on the car, and we're going to see if the tire pressure light goes out. Well, there you have it. The wheels are torqued. The tire pressure sensors are in. They've all been recalibrated to the vehicle. So hopefully we won't have any problems this winter with the tire pressure light coming on unless there's a problem with a leak in the tire. So let's head over here right now. We'll just want to make sure that the light does stay off on the dash. If it doesn't stay off, that means we have to reprogram it again. Well, there you have it. The light's out. It looks like this car will be ready for the winter. Have a safe one.
Well, that was really interesting, Vic. I mean, it looks like if you've got the right tools, that job is pretty easy to do.
Well, it is. And they always say if you have the right tools, you get anything done. The tools are as good as the people using them. So you got to make sure that you do it right. Now, it's very simple. There's a sensor and there's a valve stem. They go together. And as soon as you upload the program into the sensor, that's when the battery starts to operate. So sitting on the shelf, it won't die. Very, very cool stuff.
I should look into those for my vehicle.
Yeah, I think everybody should. You know
Do they
what?
make them for race cars?
Why not? We can see, you never know, right? But anyways, we'll be right back after this break. Welcome back, everybody. We're here with Chris Smith from Würth Canada. Today we're going to talk about tire pressure monitor systems. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks very much for having me.
Good. I just want to ask you one thing about it, and this is the one that's very important. How long have tire pressure monitor systems been out there?
Tire pressure monitoring systems really started coming around in the mid-'80s, over in Europe, actually. The first car to have them was the 959 1986 Porsche.
Now, did they have a display on the dash that showed the half a tire, or did they actually have tire pressure readings?
Some of them have readings, and some of the cars, the older models would have just had, let's say, an indicator light, and the newer models here, as we're moving forward, actually give you an accurate reading of each tire.
Explain to us the benefits of having this pressure monitoring system on your vehicle.
Sure. A couple of things. First and foremost would be safety, because it allows the occupant to be able to see what's the pressure in the car. You know, it also will display, depending on the system that you've got, what the temperature is inside the car as well. So, I mean, that's the first point. Second would be your fuel economy. A properly inflated tire is going to allow you to be able to increase your fuel economy. And last would be, most importantly as well, your maintenance. It really makes a big difference if you've got a properly inflated tire to reduce the maintenance cost on the vehicle.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're running with an underinflated tire or an overinflated tire, chances are you're going to wear your rubber a lot quicker.
Absolutely. It spreads the tire out and it starts to wear much, much faster if there's not proper inflation.
Sure, and compromising handling and
everything.
Like
if you've got improper balance, yes, you're looking at all kinds of different things that will affect the wear and the handling of the vehicle.
A little bit about the legal part of these tire pressure sensors. Now, is it mandatory in Canada right now to have tire pressure monitor systems on every vehicle?
Currently, right now, it is not mandatory in Canada. We are going to be one of the few where it's not mandatory. It is in the United States, based on some of the things that happened with tire separation in the late 90s, did force the Clinton administration to implement the TREAD Act, and that thereby making it mandatory by September 1st, 2007, that every new vehicle that came off the line in the United States had to have a TPMS monitoring system.
So does this mean they all have to work, like as of that date, that if I was to get in my vehicle and my light's on and I don't bother fixing it and I just put a regular valve back in, am I breaking the law? Is that it?
In the United States, you should be maintaining your vehicle into proper standards. It is mandatory that those vehicles carry properly operating systems. All vehicles in the United States. Yeah, that's right. It is not mandatory yet here in Canada. Europe started in 2008. It probably will be coming. We usually follow what's going on in the United States. Our vehicles are being made with the sensors. You have many of them on the market here that
most of the
are
newer
being shipped with them,
vehicles, yeah.
but it is not yet mandatory here. In Europe, it will be mandatory by 2014 in November.
Explain the difference of these sensors. Some of them, I know there's two types of sensors. Some of them work through different ways. Can you explain the two different types?
Sure. We've got an indirect system and we have a direct system. The indirect system relies on the automatic braking, the ABS system in your car to be able to relate information back on the pressure that's in the vehicle. However, it doesn't give you an exact pressure in the vehicle. It's just telling you whether or not there's a fault. So it is not quite as good as the direct system, whereas the direct system will be relaying information to the driver information center that will be telling you exactly what the tire pressure is, what the temperature is, much more reliable, much more accurate.
Wow, that's really good. When I do a tire changeover in the wintertime, I have the option of getting sensors and putting them in the other set of wheels.
Sure.
Now with your equipment through Würth, I can actually copy and then install them in the new sensors, correct?
Absolutely. You can use our tool and you can make an exact duplicate replica of the OEM sensor that's in the vehicle, and thereby setting a clone for the other 4 snow tires that you're putting on. Extremely important for folks to be able to remember to put sensors in those snow tires as you're moving forward. There have been some cases that have come up recently here in the last year where folks that have decided not to put a sensor into the tire, let's say your snow tires, you're getting insurance companies that are now looking at that and maybe perhaps not covering a claim if the tire was faulty and you did not have a sensor in that vehicle.
Because you have the option of having it in there. That's what came from the factory.
And these monitoring systems are safe with nitrogen. We see so many dealerships and places now pushing the nitrogen. Totally safe with that?
Absolutely. They're a completely sealed unit. Everything inside, the battery and everything else, all sealed inside the unit, so they're not harmed by the nitrogen film in the tires at all. No.
I wanted to talk about something that I thought was true. You know, when you get a flat tire and you've got like the repair in a can, I was always under the belief that that could damage these sensors, but that's not the case.
No, it's not the case. It's completely sealed, so it's protected from all the elements that are inside the tire. So there isn't any problem there at all.
Yeah, that's good to know, because that's something we both thought.
It is. There is maintenance to these valves. Obviously, you got to replace the seals because they are made out of rubber every couple of years. I really want to thank you very much for coming in. We could probably ask you a million questions.
No problem.
Listen, thanks a lot, and thank you very much.
Thanks very much for having me.